Going back, excellent. Yeah, going back to your point. Yeah, this is a hobby horse of mine. As you say, Michael, when you touched on Roma, for example, my great difficulty, you see, is about identity. This marrying of identity to your religious faith. You know, and I think, I mean, of course, there's so many threads. It's got more threads than the Bayeux tapestry. But essentially, this is where we're coming from. It's through, and we come across, as, you know, as Dawkins says, shrill. I mean, I consider myself like a lieutenant of the Four Horsemen in this way. But we really need to get into that core. And you know, in a nice, gentle conversation to say to people, look, regardless of where you're from and all those references you made historically, that your whatever you were brought up in terms of religious faith, if you want to accept that, fine, but please understand that it is not your identity. Because I mean, you know, we're tribal, and people we like to conform.
But if it is your identity,
yeah,
how awful that is your identity. To whom you were born and where you were born, and the generations of people who went before you, the experiences of your life, the culture and the changes that come into your life, the language that you use, the words that you use, that's your identity. Not a belief either imposed at birth or taken later on by choice. It's a part. And you know, again, the huge problem when they say we're shrill. You know, I can listen to King's College Choir, those boy treble voices. When you hear them, those notes are extremely high. They're not shrill because they make a sound that is pleasant. For religious organizations, our sound is not so pleasant, but it voices a lot of concerns that most people have, and believe it, but don't impose it upon the other. Don't come within this institution as they do and seek privileged access and privileged rights. Do not deny a woman the right to choose what she does with her body, and by so imposing on that woman, bring about the end of her life and the life of her child. The impositions of these things run contrary to the whole notion of their belief in God, because if, I'm suddenly becoming an agnostic, but for the argument, if there is a God, then why should the church or a religion sit in place of God and make its judgment upon me? Well, it makes no sense.
Absolutely. Well, and just on one point regarding the semantics, agnostic, atheist, one of my great heroes, Carl Sagan, once said, "Atheist knows something I don't know." But this is on the meaning, you know, that definitive, like Dawkins had to meet this as well, and of his 1 to 7 scale, he says I'm like 6.999 recurring non-believers, but we must allow that. Whatever, semantics. Yeah, going back.
Just on semantics, somebody said to me, a lovely friend who was a bishop, he said, you know, when you die, there'll be a big surprise. I said, well, let's look at it this way. I said, when I die, as I will, I said, I'll have a surprise. I said, I think you'll have nothing but disappointment.
Stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, but when it's in your face, I mean, even here in the house, I have seen it, liaison conferences of the religious, mostly with the EPP group and whatever, but it's relevant to everyone.
Oh, absolutely. And I've seen it in the socialist group.
Well, sure. And I say, fine, but where's our representation? Because, point of fact, I mean, why is it taboo? It's like the old analogy they used to use, and we might finish up soon on this one, Raquel, because I don't want to keep the man all day, but it was like the thing I grew up with, Michael, in Ireland. We would just say, in a pub or in a bar, you never discussed politics or religion. And I thought, oh, nodding wisely, yeah, that's probably good advice. But then later on, as Dawkins prompted me to do, I said, why not? We talk about everything else. And I thought it's such ingenious default position that the church has. Imagine that strategy, Michael, is that You don't talk about religion, so where's the discussion, the debate? I mean, that's what caused the problem back in the Reformation. Darwin too, but Martin Luther, my namesake, John Calvin, said, to hell with that, I think we will have a conversation about religion, you know, but that's the default position, and it's so clever, you know, we just don't discuss it. And I think that pervades even into the House. I see it here as part of as a socialist and in the group. I discuss it with Annie Lamarchal and immigration and all these things, and it's just the committee upon committee upon committee. And it's just so glaringly obvious that a blind man on a galloping horse could see that there is that ethnic question of identity that, you know, and we have to question that. What, you know, so fine, hold on to your identity, but last political point, I don't want to preach, I'm not a politician, but, you know, in terms of something that would be relevant to you, your good self, Michael, Zapatero, you know, when he came to power in Spain, I know because I lived there for 10 years, and I was there at the time. He promised legislation in terms of same-sex or partners, gay marriage, etc. And he fulfilled that. He did that. That's progression. Of course, who were the first people wheeled out in Plaza Mayor in Spain? The Catholic right. They couldn't change that. But they made their impact. So my point to people is that is a direct human rights issue. And those people had a problem with it because of an insane ideology. So if they never sleep, neither will I. And I'm going to remind people, this is why I cannot be a politician, because I'd never get elected, because it's just I'm too outspoken, you know.
Well, it's good that you are outspoken. You say you won't preach because you're not a politician. I won't preach because I'm not a priest. If you're not outspoken, nothing changes. As I said earlier, I would defend the right of someone to believe in their religion, their faith. That's absolutely essential. And equally, I will defend my right. Zapatero's courage, and indeed, and he's not given credit for it, Tony Blair's courage in standing up to the Christian lobbyists in the United Kingdom when he was bringing forward equal rights for lesbian and gay and bisexual people, including the right to adoption, and the Catholic Church threatened and cajoled. Yeah. They have a view, and when they attack Zapatero, they have a view of a society that is not mine. They have a view of society that is unequal, where people are lower than others, and that seems to me to contradict the very idea of a God whom, in the eyes of, we are all born equal. That's why in politics, and I'll finish on this, it's essential that you speak what you feel, not what you ought to say or what you think needs to be heard, and have the courage not to get re-elected, have the courage to be unpopular, and the courage to do what's right for the long term. And that does mean dismantling some of the outrageous and arrogant power that religious organisations exert.
Yeah, well, just on that, and I know we have to finish. You're maybe familiar with the Cloyne report, this in Ireland reference to that, and how the Prime Minister really, he broke all precedent. It's a wonderful thing, and stood up in the chamber and condemned the Vatican's lack of response. I couldn't believe it. From an Irish perspective, the Taliban of Catholicism in Europe, it was really a watershed.
So you got me going again, because I read a recent report about the way canon law is within the Catholic Church, within the Vatican, is actually preached to the converted, that canon law is supreme over the domestic law of any country. Sorry, that is counter, I think, to the Charter of the United Nations.
Yes, indeed, and many other things. Michael, thank you so much indeed. It's been a pleasure.
We could chew the legs off a flying donkey, I was going to say, but you know what I mean.
I do indeed. Excellent.